Welcome to the Move with Tank podcast with your host, Dr. Michael Tancini. He is a doctor of physical therapy, owner of Ground to Overhead Physical Therapy, a strength and conditioning coach, former college athlete, 4-time CrossFit regional athlete, and a national level Olympic weightlifter. On the show, he will cover ways for active individuals and athletes, just like you, to stay healthy and improve their performance without the need of surgery, injections, and pain medication. If you ever have any questions for Dr. Tancini, which you would like answered, send over an email or message through Instagram at drtank_DPT. So without further ado, here's your host, Dr. Tank.
What is up, everybody? Dr. Tank here, Dr. Michael Tancini. Welcome to the Move with Tank podcast. You're probably listening to this a few days or maybe a week or so after I record it, but hey, as you guys know, or some of you may know, I'm a huge Eagles fan and we're playing the Dallas Cowboys tonight. I never had the opportunity to watch this late games because I go to bed super early. But hey, let's go Birds. Let's see them beat up on those Cowgirls and so I can talk some smack to my wife's dad. But hey, that's a different podcast or a different topic for a different podcast now. So, but thank you so much for joining me, everyone. Today, we're going to do a little shorty talking about or answering one of the athletes' questions who wrote into us. It's a super common question, which we tend to work with athletes on and one that we tend to see a lot. So let's dive on in. Mason asked or quoted, "The low back sniper got me today. Had to stop in the second round of my workout because I couldn't even lift a 225-pound bar without shooting pain. I always get this bad when I have multiple deadlifts or multiple heavy deadlift days in a week. Do you have any good tips to overcome this? Or does my weak back just need to get stronger?" Okay, so that right there is a super common problem that many of you often have. I know if you're listening to this episode now, you may have experienced the same thing in the past. So now we have to understand that if your low back always locks up when you deadlift more than once a week, the first things first, we have to look at how you're bracing the midline, right? So we have to look at, are you organizing your spine in a way which you can actually let your legs work? Or are you just locking down the back and then causing it to get seized up and super early in a training week? Okay. So now here's the thing. Sure, you're going to work the back in the deadlift, especially when you've got higher reps or more time under tension at a heavier load. That being said, though you are working the back of the deadlift, the back isn't the primary target for the deadlift, right? So if your back is locking up, we have to ask, okay, why are you overusing your back? And how come you're not feeling it in your hamstrings or in the glutes? These are the things that we need to ask and then answer first. That normally comes down to, one, you're not bracing the middle arm effectively. So you're locking yourself into lumbar extension. You're overusing the lumbar musculature and putting yourself in a position of lumbar extension, which puts us in a position of hip flexion, because the two actually go hand in hand. If you're familiar with what's called Lumbopelvic rhythm, if you're not, go ahead and look it up. It's this idea the spine and the hip all work together. And as we go into extension of the low back, we automatically see flexion through the hip, right? And then just a quick anatomy lesson, the big muscle we want to use in the deadlift, right, is the glutes. And what's everyone said, use your glutes, use your glutes. Well, if your hips and hip flexion, how do you expect to get full power out of the glutes when the hip is a hip extensor? So that's number one, right? So like we have to look at, okay, we have to get you to lock the ribs down in the front and press away from the ground instead of throwing your back into extension and pulling from the ground. Now, when we look at what a deadlift is, right, you're moving the bar vertically away from the ground. So we ultimately need to have pressure or tension driven through the ground so that we can move the bar vertically. It's, one of Newton's laws of physics. So we need you to press through the center of your foot, right? Get off your heels, press through the center of the foot. As you press through the ground, the calf, the quad, and the glute max are all synergistic of each other. So as you cue the pressing down through the ground while you're locking the ribs down, you're going to fire the calf, right? But you're also going to fire the quads, which is remember, we need to move the bar vertically away from the ground, which you can't move the bar vertically without knee extension. And then because you're pressing away from the ground, the glutes are actually going to work harder. And you're going to feel this way more at the end of the day in your hamstrings and your glutes, and your low back should be completely fine. Your spine needs to be strong and robust, especially in a movement like the deadlift, but it is a lever. So we're not lifting with our back. We're bracing with our back so that we can transfer the load from the weight we're handling or holding in our hands through the middle line of the body so that we can use our legs to actually lift it, right? So this is why we always start core first, start ribs down first, lock those ribs down, brace that rib cage down, brace that spine, and then press away from the ground. So now, sure, like you asked the question, does my weak back just need to get stronger? Well, getting stronger is never a bad thing, right? But first, let's make sure you're getting stronger in the right patterns, right? So if we can, one, decrease loading on the back by just improving your ability to perform and then make you stronger and more robust in that pattern, you're going to really work wonders to not only improve your performance, but to bulletproof your back so that, you can do multiple deadlift days in the same week without your back being absolutely destroyed. So last note, right? I know what training program you're following, and overall volume isn't necessarily a problem here. To those who are also asking, make sure you're following properly structured training program. Yeah, make sure you're following a properly structured training program, and so that you can have an organized approach to attacking your training so that you can make progress, but see sustainable progress over time. And if you guys have questions about that, I'm always happy to answer. I do program for a lot of athletes individually to help them with just this. But I hope that answers the question. Sure, yes, getting stronger is always something, but we do need to make sure that you're bracing the way that you need to and actually are performing the deadlift the way that you need to. Okay, so that's it today, everyone. I hope you guys took a lot from that because this is a super common problem, even if you're not having back pain. Right now, if your back tends to get lit up when you do a lot of deadlifts, this is something that you probably need to work on. So guys, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, guys, thanks for listening to the podcast today. I hope you found the content useful, and I hope it helps you avoid an unneeded surgery or an unneeded injection in the future. Now, in practice, my goal is to save 1 million active individuals from the unneeded surgeries, injections, and pain meds that they don't need, while helping them stay active and performing the activities that they love to do. Now, guys, I cannot reach that many people all by myself. I really need your help. So if you like what you heard, please share this podcast with your friends, with your families, or with anyone who you feel really needs to hear it. By doing so, you may just save that person from an unneeded surgery or injection that they really do not need. If you're not following me yet on social media, find me on Instagram at drtank_DPT and on Facebook at Ground to Overhead Physical Therapy. Thanks for listening to the show today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you guys here again next time on the Move with Tank podcast.